What death do you believe was an assassination? In the late 80s, 25 Marconi scientists linked to defense projects died in mysterious and violent circumstances. Many MPs and journalists were convinced they had been targeted, possibly by the Soviets, but the UK government maintained it was simply a coincidence. Link. NGL. My dyslexic brain read that as 25 macaroni scientists. Pasta la vista, baby. They passed away under mysterious circumstances. UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld. Hands down. David Kelly, UN weapons inspector and expert on biological warfare, allegedly killed himself due to stresses of the job, but some very shady theories have become known since then. Who would have had him killed? He was reporting on the presence of WMD in Iraq at the time of the Bush-Blair administration, and would have known the truth, that there was nothing to back up their claims. The rest is a matter of which government got to him, I guess. A lot of early Indian nuclear scientists. Is there somewhere I can read about this? Or if you can elaborate, I'd really appreciate. I found a website that has an article about this. Here's the link. King Ludwig II of Bavaria 1845-1886. He commissioned the building of Neuschwanstein Castle, the one they based Disney's Sleeping Beauty castle from, but Wolf sold the country out from under the Bavarians to keep construction going. All for a private castle. It was more convenient to kill him, finish the castle themselves, and get the money back from tours. Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh wait, I'm a bit early for this thread. Sorry, I'm surprised she is still alive. I'm guessing there are some forces that are just on keeping her alive duty. People who were thinking no one would dare kill Epstein, and then they were like, oh duck. I think it's worth mentioning that her father died mysteriously on a boat named after her, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that some foul play is afoot. All those poor Russian dissidents that dared to walk near high-rise windows. Yeah, Putin was going to be on the top of my list. It's amazing how many people who speak out against Putin accidentally chew on some polonium, fall out of high-rise windows, or get stabbed in a mugging. There was an old joke about how the guy committed suicide by stabbing himself in the back 17 times. Marilyn Monroe. What happened to her then? Apparently someone poisoned her douche. Seriously. I read it in Cosmopolitan in 1985. I thought you were calling the person you were applying to a douche, and I was confused what they had said to piss you off till I read it again. Apparently someone poisoned her douche. Rolling Stone journalist Michael Hastings. He was a war correspondent and investigative reporter who essentially got a US general fired during the Obama administration. Before he died, he told several of his friends that he was being followed by people. Then bam, he dies in a car crash. Coroner said he had drugs in his system and police dismiss any further investigation. Edit. Sorry I did glaze over the details. It is true. His own brother said that he had a history with drugs and doesn't think foul play. But maybe the brother didn't connect the dots. We live in a world where government agencies or anyone with computer skills can find very intimate details about an individual. They can find their weaknesses, their mistakes and their secrets. Things that society would shun them for. If these were professional government assassins, then a manic drug user would be low-hanging fruit. Here is my issue with that story. Drugs have a way of discrediting a person and shutting down investigations. A person doing drugs, albeit a manic person doing drugs, is not a guaranteed suicide, and it shouldn't discredit their reputation. It shouldn't stop them from investigating. It is too convenient to wash your hands like that. The other part for me is it was revealed he was being followed. It turned out he was being investigated and followed by the FBI. That is important to know. I think they were intentionally provoking his fear and paranoia with old Soviet KGB tactics. I think they were trying to break him down mentally. Maybe he was being followed that night. Maybe he saw them and crashed trying to lose them. Anyways, that's what I believe. Have a good day. Those convenient deaths always infuriate me. The deaths infuriate Northeast far less than the transparent we investigated and found nothing suspicious. But I get stopped if I walk to work at night because it's suspicious to walk around after dark. Dag Jamaran Kulhamaskjeldi. From The Guardian. The day after the crash, former US President Harry Truman told reporters Hamas Gel-D was on the point of getting something done when they killed him. Notice that I said when they killed him. Truman refused to elaborate, but this served only to fuel the rumor mill. Dr. David Kelly. Very fishy, that one. Anything to do with someone with links to Russia that fell from a balcony. Dr. David Kelly. Even after it was just announced, it was blatantly obvious that his death was actually him being murdered. Most of the witnesses of the Dutroux case. For those not knowing who that is, Dutroux operated in child trafficking, pedophilia, and related cases Belgium. He got into prison, but then got pardoned by the Minister of Justice, and then he did it again, got caught, and some of the minors he kept in his basement starved to death because no one found them, and his wife, who participated in his crimes, did not take care. Now the wild part, there were many witnesses. Today, 27 of them did, partly due to strange incidences. One guy disappeared, only a foot was found. One fell in front of a train. Some shot themselves. One had rohypnol in his aspirator. One had a car accident after asking police for protecting because she got a death threat that she will have a car accident. It is possible that organized crime and parts of the state teamed up to cover. That's one reason why I do not think that Epstein killed himself, and why I think that the narrative pedophilia networks with political actors are just a conspiracy theory hoax, is just propaganda. And then there is Rotherham. Holy shit. I'm Belgian and wasn't aware. I wanted to say Albert 1, but this one is much better. JFK. Next you will be telling us Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated. The side theory I like to scare myself with is that the CIA, who JFK was attempting to dismantle, made contact with Oswald and enculturated him the program in human suggestibility and manipulation that began in 1953 and would run until 1973, when it was officially halted, taking advantage of his deteriorating mental state to encourage him into killing two birds with one stone, one bird for the CIA and one bird for Oswald. Then he could be easily removed from payroll without anybody asking too many questions. But that's in the homeless man yelling on the bus realm of conspiracy theories without a single fact to back that up. My high school math teacher. What they just said, death. Not famous. Seriously though. He was a creep and known to make girls very uncomfortable, and a high school shared land with the middle school, and the cafeteria was one gigantic building split with an accordion wall, and the main offices were shared. But no one could freely roam back and forth. Not even faculty without a card. Anyway, after a few minor accusations he was fired, and about a week after he was fired he was found wandering around in the middle school side talking to a few girls, and when asked what he was doing on the property he said he left some things. But as a high school teacher he would never step foot on the middle side. The officer removed him from the grounds and the school put notices up to not talk to him until if we saw him. A few weeks after that some really bad rumors went around, and the oldest sibling of one of the middle school girls stopped coming to school, so we all knew something happened. Unfortunately the 6th grader refused to file a police report or anything, afraid of the teacher, so the cops had to let him go, but kept an eye on him. About a month later the teacher was dead, and that family moved back to Ohio. His death was ruled an accidental overdose, and a bunch of evidence was found in his home, including garments stolen from the school, bathing suits, underwear, sweaters, all kinds of shit. Photos of students and other kids. It was bad. I don't need to continue. Everyone in town assumed that the father of the two girls killed him and fled back to Ohio, but no one cared. The cops didn't even call to question them or anything. They just wrote down overdose and called it a day. They said foul play was hard to prove since his house was badly vandalized already. Several broken windows, door kicked in, spray paint, and someone even set his garage and boat on fire. So yeah, I'm pretty sure my creepy ass math teacher was assassinated by the father of his victim. Dorothy Kilgallen. She knew too much about the Kennedy assassination. Dr. David Kelly. Link. Gave evidence against existence of Iraq WMDs, then conveniently goes into a forest and kills himself. Jeffrey Epstein. Don't be silly. He was suicided by someone else. Not murdered. Involuntary assisted suicide. Involuntary surprise assisted suicide. Karen Silkwood. Lee Harvey Oswald. He was obviously assassinated. But I don't believe that Jack Ruby did it for the individual reasons that are quoted. Oswald repeatedly claimed I'm just a patsy for JFK's assassination, and it was super convenient to have him removed so that he can't repeat that phrase on the big stage during what would have been the most followed trial at the time. This is obviously super conspiracy why, but then again, this whole thread is. Franz Ferdinand. Very suspicious death. They should look into that. I get that it was about 105 years ago, but still. General Georges Patton died in a motor vehicle accident shortly after the end of World War II in a rural part of a country where few cars made it through the war and fuel was cost prohibitive for the majority of the population. Speeding was rare for practical reasons, especially in that driving slow conserved fuel. Patton had been an outspoken critic against communism and was vocal about wanting to use the Western Allied momentum to continue the war after defeating the Germans and fight the Soviet Union. He had gone as far as proposing to rearm the Germans and use them alongside French, British and American troops. A man with as much influence as Patton becoming president was a strong possibility, and an American president that openly pushed for invading the USSR would have been too dangerous to keep alive. The Soviets had intelligence assets all over Europe by wars, and that were quickly targeting the Western powers after Germany was no longer a threat. Assassination was a common solution for the Soviets, and nipping Patton in the bud is not beyond them. Do you think if Patton lived and had become president he would have been mad enough to use nuclear weapons on the Soviets? I do. Patton made MacArthur look like a pacifist, and MacArthur was pushing to use nukes in Korea at the end of World War II. Patton said, paraphrasing here, that as the war ended, so too did his usefulness. Edgar Allan Poe. Lal Bahadur Shastri, 2nd PM of India, mysteriously found dead in Tashkent on an official visit. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose mysteriously went missing, assumed to be dead in a plane crash, but body never found. You factor Majesathi, thanks for the silver my friend. I'm starting to think maybe Abraham Lincoln's death was an assassination, can't be too certain. Fred Hampton, 21-year-old Black Panther leader who was killed by the police while he was asleep in his home in 1969. This is a fact, and not really debated. I mean, his Wikipedia entry has a whole section that reads assassination link. John McAfee. Princess Diana. Go listen to 5 minutes of Yoko Ono singing and tell me that John Lennon didn't hire a hitman on himself. Brittany Murphy. Jeffrey Epstein. Guy was a total piece of shit without a doubt, but many very powerful people had ties to him and were at risk of being exposed. Even Donald Trump, who was president at the time of Epstein's death, had previously bragged about partying with Epstein, saying he likes them young. Epstein allegedly died by suicide. I'm very suspicious of the passing of Jim Morrison. Hasty burial, no autopsy, no touch screen report. I realize that modern technology didn't exist, but it just seems fishy to me. I think there's enough evidence to consider homicide or suicide. Gary Webb. Nikola Tesla, when he died, authorities said that it was from a natural cause. But when they investigated his house they found all of his scientific books gone. Pat Tillman. He would have been an extremely effective spokesman against Bush's wars. A young, white, tough, handsome athletic hero who gave up his football career to volunteer to go fight with the best of intentions, and who grew disillusioned with the whole project. He, more than anyone else, could have turned opinion against the war in red states. This could not be allowed to happen. And it wasn't. I think the circumstances of his death were an accident, but I think it was covered up and exploited in a way he would not have liked in the slightest. Yeah. Michael Jackson. Just seems weird that he happened to own the royalties for the entire Beatles catalog, then suddenly died 3 months before Apple obtained the rights and released remastered versions of every single Beatles song. Technically speaking, you could say Michael Jackson was murdered in a sense. The doctor who administered the drugs should have known better. he would have had to administer so much propofol to kill him. I do wonder if maybe his death wasn't an accident though, maybe an assisted suicide.